God's decrees do not include foresight. So the confession gives a robust definition of what it means by decrees. Then paragraph 2 says, although God knows whatsoever may or can come to pass, that is, he knows future contingencies upon all supposed conditions. That is, he's perfect. God can see an infinite amount of potentialities. It goes on to say, yet he not decreed anything because he foresaw it as future. That is, our confession denies Molinism. Molinism is that belief in middle knowledge. So here's 3 notes to take. Write this down. There's 3 types of knowledge, potential knowledge in God. There's natural knowledge. That's what can happen independent of God's control. God knows the future, but the future is independent of his influence or control. That's open theism. Well, open theism says God doesn't know the future entirely. Natural knowledge says, yeah, God knows the future, but he's not in control of it. Middle knowledge, this is Molinism. It's what would happen if God determined certain situations to happen. And I believe God has middle knowledge. In fact, our confession says he does. He knows what all of us would do under any given situation. I don't know why he would love us. You know, what's in you, what you could do, what evil could come out of you. Some people don't commit adultery just because they're ugly. It's not because they're morally bad. They just don't have the opportunity. They don't have pretty women flirting with them. So being ugly is a restraining grace. And I use that as kind of a joke, but it's really not a joke because I'll say something's true about you and me and all of humanity. You would cheat on your wife, and if you're not married, you would go and have premarital sex tomorrow. Remember Peter, if all else deny you, I'll die with you. Remember Peter saying that? He meant it. You think, I wouldn't commit adultery. You say that, and then you don't think you would under the circumstances you're currently in. I love my wife, and I don't want to. I hate sin. And those are all things true. Peter says, I don't want to deny you. I'll die with you. I think that was a true feeling, affection in his heart at that moment. Like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get smacked in the mouth. All of us would fall tomorrow. If God, lead me not in temptation, we should pray that. Tomorrow you would fall so bad. I would fall so bad. The devil trying to put us in those situations. He desires to shift us. God knows exactly what potential situations would cause us to fall. That's why we have no room for arrogance. We don't need to say to the Titanic, it's unsinkable. Even though we do believe God knows every form of potentiality, but for God to base his plan on some observation of what we would do under any given situation would mean that his decrees are not decreed according to his inherent within himself, that he needed something outside of himself to make his plans. So to me, that undermines the sovereignty of God, and that God didn't need anything other than his own good counsel and planning. That's called free knowledge. So you got natural knowledge, what would happen outside of God's control, middle knowledge, what would potentially happen under any given situation, and then free knowledge is what will happen according to God's decrees or according to God's sovereignty. And that's what we uphold, God's free knowledge.